9 Flowers of Fallen Snow, for Sylvia Orta. What would the dark do without fevers to eat? What would the light do without eyes to knife? Sylvia Plath. Ariel, the Restored Edition. The Breaking of the Monolith. Wander to the fall-torn gardens of our mansion. Listen through these shaggy skirts of pine for the whispers of rabbits and the grim diktats of thunderheads. Reach for me through these rain-dark branches of cottonwood, through these frost-caked filaments of birch, colonized by ragged magpies, grotesques of suburbia, until your dark has tamed my daylight. My ghost, nearly extinguished, lingers in hungered sorrow, frantic to stop a void mistaken for a flaw. After I fell to you, I strayed on Mars until my sky fell red, banished into his cavalcades of dust, compressed like leaves between the pages our book concealed, mirrored in the sectors of our spine. A rose thorn, stranded like a stinger, left your avatar in me. This flesh, embodied, disembodied me. The failed homunculi called I revealed itself as a crumbling monolith, turned on its side, facing away from me, parasite of poetry, addict of newness. Overwhelmed by this living product of its dark intents, the governor slipped from his throne. Our silence thrives in gracious vacancy, the backdrop of a broken breath of God. Atlantean Castaways. Blood salts the sea. The sunken rubble of our palaces becomes the sand that children build their castles with. We flee to land. A lithe gazelle glides past her acolytes, drifting in whirls of chemistry, angelic juggler of shadows. Carnivores hesitate to chase her form, so wholly sculptured as a sacrifice to grace. Running across her belly shocks my touch with a smoothness soft yet taut as the vellum sleeping places of our faded heraldry. The eye of her blood obliterates the lying child house clawing at me, indifferent to the fallout of its blind, helical authoring. Damned by the diadems of our names, we choose escape, riding away the flooding night atop the waves of winter's crystal interval, hearts beating in heretical unison on the anvil of the earth. We revel below the clouds of flies that hound impious travelers, black watchers dotting our ceiling of exhausted white in fleets of inverted stars. Forever galvanize my soul, obstinate sailor of the psychic seas. I cannot lucidly dream, nor reach for any others wavering in fugues of their subconscious drunkenness. Return to me, passing over the tired surface of this plain, and cup the lotus of myself in your heart's core. Dawn in Teotihuacan. We wake as one, sheltered from the unfolding sauna of pre-dawn, and alight the cool flagstones. A quetzal flaps past a stone window gap, a streak of gold and opal painting itself upon a backdrop of leaves. I caress your thigh as you stretch. We don robes of feathers and step onto the terrace. A shaman offers us clay cups. The concoction inhabits us. We drift into the twin minds of jade-winged snake birds perched on a branch while the sun rises. Eyes closed, we see their nesting unfold, dry grass architects in rote collaboration. You have no egg in you, and yet no lesser love possesses us. Our kin have loved and fought wars this same way, inhabiting animals by tuning their inner antennas to them, using precise technologies delivered orally through herbal vectors. For the last war we fought as boars, our bodies draped in dyed leather and tusks at the battle temple, as we hummed the tones of our kin, guiding our gore vessels through mazes of ferns. Computer games crudely replicate the elegance of these sonorous psychic ballets. To us, these wars were more like games than flirting with apocalypse. Lovers suffered humiliation rather than annihilation. This would not be so for our conquerors. Before the ships arrived, we thrived within the forest's twisting harmony of forms. One time, we chose to make love in the bodies of serpents, twined in the deep rot of leaves beneath a kapok tree, its trunk choked by parasitic vines and their leafy tumors, at one with all things frantic to love one another at any expense, with the whole jungle eating and fucking itself, its eyes turned inward on themselves, forming a fractal coalition of self-observation, a transcendental voyeurism. You tried to eat a toro rat too big for you, and I tried to laugh, realizing I had no human nostrils. Instead, venom spurted from my fangs and down my throat, taste smelling of burnt plastic and licorice. When you showed me that smoothest part of your belly in the fern-shattered light, I felt beauty slay the lone imp of my shame, smacked backwards into the oblivion of its natal program. In my later life, I would be stung by a bee as a child, its remote control mechanism embedded in the flesh of my back, to the left of my spine. A minuscule sphere of mineralized intent, insisted and insisting. Later in this life, this implantation would make me voracious for reading, for hoarding viscous liquors of knowledge in black hexagons. It would make me seek noble queens to command me, but I would find only hags and sorceresses, clawing for fresh pawns amid a dying era's mass awakening. Now, together, we instead relish the ever-bleeding heat of mammal metabolism, its sheen of sweat like a constant second skin of pheromonal syrup, fusing us with an equatorial air turgid with fevered water. At times you have been my dragonfly, flitting ahead over the summer water of the pond on my street, leading my terminal appendage to yours, each of us desperate to reconnect after our first body meeting in millennia. That day we lay in our human skins and gazed at snowdrops shredded by the tops of two pines, twin pillars aligned by the fates of their seeds. Star-crossed we bask in the pain of mutual absence until we glimpse a raven blink or a rabbit perk its ears, and we smile, knowing our connection unbroken. As the old conquerors continue dying, they preach forgiveness but cannot forgive themselves, and in this way they craft their own bespoke damnation, casting their worn souls aside with no regard for nature's gods, who shake their feathered heads in wonder at these conquerors' misguided sacrifice to emptiness, at their bleeding into the void while asking for no boon but virtue. So they receive nothing but that delusion of their hubris. We laugh at them as their boats cut into our sand. We hoot from howler skins, hawking coconut husks at their comical morions. As their disease advanced, we tried retreating to the bodies of beasts, but the pox rotted us too quickly. The group memory of our people shrank to a few scattered nodes, stray clumps of neurons lost in disconnection, crazed with loneliness in the dissonance of death's imminent stillness. All our holiest ghosts drifted to the source to save themselves while planning an apocalyptic return, a vengeance of winged serpents and gaping fires where the sky would writhe and the oceans fume. But our conquerors brought hell upon themselves before we could. From above, our kin marveled at the extent of their self-flagellation, at the excess of their worship of their guilt, at the carelessness with which they dismiss the value of their blood. We fled south in hummingbirds and took a rest at Machu Picchu, where the ancient fires of heaven fossilized wooden dwellings, coating their gaps and pegs in a hardened ash that would trick future archaeologists into thinking they had been made of stone. Soon after, we found Antarctica. We met Oddfowl and leapt into the first two that would have us, sliding through labyrinths of icy passageways until we found the city huddled under the glacial crust of that slumbering land. We reached the chamber where our true selves lay, sleeping in gypsum columns, and watched ourselves dream in those suspended forms so alien to any terrestrial eyes that they fought to occupy some template shape in our minds, but failed into froths of gasoline and opal bubbling against backdrops of velvet glass. Bound in these fractal shells, we crown ourselves kings of infinite space. When jets and saucers fled to bases above and below us, we set the city's traps alive and watched its dark geometries consume spelunkers like pitcher plants drinking insects. I felt some remorse at this, but you nudged my delusion of morality away with images of these new conquerors' ongoing atrocities. This human comedy depends on us allowing our guilt to fossilize into shame, you thought to me. In time, we took the bodies of our makers for a spin, those unclassifiable monstrosities that shocked even the hardened scientists whose sins of butchery make for playful forays compared to our progenitors' deconstruction of sentient forms. Though much we've done, our play has just begun. Return with me to the summit of the pyramid of the sun, our blazing palace crying for the sky, our bodies conduits for gods. I swear never to betray you again, my flame of truth, crown of my heart. When one of us forsakes the other, our coastlines thicken with red, each pristine grain marred by the glue of our blood. Past ages of sacrifice have worn us raw at heart, made teeth of our eyes and gutters of our mouths. So let us wander far beyond this wasteland, into the jungles of our waiting minds. Travel with me. Let us find respite from the drudgery of this system's droning motions. This world may well unite, or it may fall to pieces, but the union we found must not, or else no peace will serve, and we will serve no peace, or else no atom stays unsplit, and we will split no stones, or else no names remain, and we will name no more, or else no nights will end, and we will raise no light. Let us throw off all mantles of lying ever imposed on us, and let us remember that time and space are soluble in love. the Queen of Asps. A broken bell, my heart under the sand, reaches for bedrock, craving sublimation, reabsorption of its fretting drop of bronze into the liquid archive of the inner earth. Above, in Alexandria, stand echoes of arcades and columns bisected by thin shards of sunlight. Reluctant to meet morning, a beggar huddles up to his dog. In a room nearby, a sleepless herbalist ponders the myth that a mere worm can make one crave what the pure despise. The beggar twitches in his sleep. Angelic marble, 9-winged and 7-eyed, the palace overlooks its subjects. A streak of cloud crosses the threshold of the royal chamber. The queen leans on the stone railings divide, wind waving in her silks. She dons her crown, a golden shackle so deceitfully light. The city stirs in waking, a shattered mirror of royalty's forms, aging ideals upheld by youthful statues. The queen turns her back to dawn to sun her colder side. The wind begins to die. The beggar's dog sniffs at a hungry street. Her heart, a bird song caught in a glass ball, searches for shattering, for the will to let fanged wraiths of ink latch to her wrists. Absolute Zero. Imitating the flesh of fruit, each leaf attempts to ripen before falling. We snuck out of the house that winter, new snow united with old moonlight. The cold ground its blunt teeth into our fingers like a cow at cud, but we wore this chewing like royal robes, adorning our huddled bodies as we smoked. Bare webs of branches freed of wind proved the clarity of stillness hypnotic. Atoms drained of energy shiver less as they grow colder. The more they flirt with death, the more stable they become, courting pure inaction. Earlier that fall, I watched a white moth with 2 days of life left sip nectar from a dying sunflower. Dreading the end of fall, each setting sun covets the colors eaten by the onyx night. The betrayal of the golden flower. Aya bombaya bombelama samanakana. Taino kachika anakaona. Via one barred a drawn blaze lent us a mangled grandeur. Fire born by her bonds of pawn assimilated Anna. Gaia's dawn belied a somber lament, sung one unquiet aria bombarding a balmy dale amassing a main of canna. Liars' bonfires brought bedlam, massacring Anna. Dire brawn buys a bold play, summons a carnal Maya blood choir, damning the lame master's mannequins. I, a lone briar embalms me, alas, sang Anakaona. Aya bombaya, bombe lama, samanakana. This purgatory. The look you left me with was the last unmarred feather in the ragged nest a raven fled before dying of lightning. Wept silent, your stoic eyes were glass ashtrays in a derelict hotel, fogged edges overspilt with rain. The next night I slept, I had the face of Tolland man, a death snapshot in peat leather, veins dregs of oily rivers. When we met, fate's wraiths disbanded and the moon entered stasis. Cracks formed on the sun as we held the earth hostage. The gnarled sprig we nursed, a rose awoken, unraveled God's marble grip on light across a bed of lacquered scars. Toast the apocalypse with me, sipping from saline tinctures of angelic tears beside the bonfire of Easter Island's final tree. If we were wise, we would spend what's left of this life listening to the waves, despite the interference of the fuming wind. Fellow inmate of this prison of revelries and riots, your love capstones my pyramid like a bit of scalp missed by a Cree chief's axe. Damn the bland glories of heaven and blast the tedious tortures of hell. Where twinning souls linger, this purgatory becomes paradise. The Redemption of Icarus. Sweet one, you nursed me through my shedding of false wings, their wax unsealed by the cloudless eye of dawn. You became both the waking lantern and the Sandman, opening and closing both my stubborn eyes. I am unfurled. You became the splitting reed the wind hisses through on its path to every end, a flowing song waylaid by stubborn stone. You became the bed of gentle greens where lost reindeer retreat, soft filaments of roots and moss in deep collusions. You became the maiden at the hidden altar of the last and wildest gathering, the refuge of our darkest unseen dreams. You became the caster of the final ward against the masked and shadowed husks who feed upon the freshest sap of souls. You became the sharp water in which the smith must dip his noble's blade, stinging its iron crystals in frigid rebirth. You became the driving steed, defiant to the shivering blue drapes of flame at Dracula's gates, mere illusions of fear. Sweet one, you became the force that paused the fevered weaving of my fate. You gave me back my missing wish to fly. Nine flowers of fallen snow. Your eyes, arrows of umber fire, part the silken curtains of my nerves. I fade into superposition at your mind's touch. Love confesses my body to you. Distance mocks us on fate's behalf as a last resort. I demand the book of life preserve your name, if not in ink, then in the fire I will spark with the clash of my flinted bones. Chaos bows to our rogue order, sweet one. The sprouts of our garden powder the dry stone of curse-ridden tablets, themselves idols by other names. Love laughs at them, invisible and indivisible, as reality's song. Outside of linear time, all events congeal, self-sculpting the grand echo of our Maker's escape from the endless tyranny of oneness. Unwitting architect, what shapes your mind? Do these dark emanations complicate you? These bodies, rough cross-sections of matter, crumpled and battered by forced interactions, still beseech you to see the love they find here. Look to the week of fevered moments that we scrawled onto your scroll of time, two destinies entwined forever, despite all your law's delays. Sweet one, you may loathe this stillborn world, but I beg you, do not loathe yourself. I swear, by my splinter of a soul, love fills you always.